Good evening from the International Space Station Flight Control Room at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. Greetings to our viewers around the world as we prepare for the departure of 3 crew members, the Expedition 49 crew from the International Outpost that has been their home for the past 4 months. We'll get more details for you here in just a second on the preparations for the undocking of the Soyuz MS-01 spacecraft from the International Space Station. First, let's set the scene for you here in the Flight Control Room in Houston. The Orbit 3 team of flight controllers on duty, led by Flight Director Courtney McMillan in the center of your screen. To her left, on the right of your screen, is Flight Director T.J. Kramer, a former astronaut and a veteran of a long-duration flight aboard the International Space Station. On the bottom of your screen, on the far left, is astronaut Nicole Mann, who has been talking to the space station crew aboard the International Space Station for the past few hours. Half a world away across the ocean at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov, a good view of that cavernous flight control room from a balcony camera overlooking the room. The Russian flight controllers, of course, in charge of the Soyuz undocking and all of the preparations that will lead to the landing of the Expedition 49 crew on the steppe of Kazakhstan about 3 hours and 42 minutes from now. Everything has gone by the book with all of the preparations for the landing of this trio of crew members who first were launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan back on July 7th, arriving at the International Space Station on July 9th. On board, the Soyuz MS-01 strapped into their respective seats in the descent module, the center section of the 3-section Soyuz spacecraft, Soyuz Commander Anatoly Ivanishin, who will be flying the Soyuz away from the International Space Station under the Soyuz call sign of Irkut. To his right, in the right seat of the Soyuz descent module, is NASA flight engineer Kate Rubins, and on Ivanishin's left is Takuya Onishi, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency flight engineer, or board engineer number 1, who will be the second set of eyes backing up Ivanishin for all of the activities associated with undocking, entry, and landing over the course of the next few hours. 3 hours ago, the crew bid farewell to their expedition crewmates on board the International Space Station. The new commander of the International Space Station, NASA's Shane Kimbrough, joined on board with his Russian crewmates, Andrei Borisenko and Sergei Ryzhikov. They launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome 10 days ago in the Soyuz MS-02 spacecraft, arriving just 8 days ago on board the station for an expedited handover with Rubins, Ivanishin, and Onishi. Kimbrough, the Expedition 50 commander. Expedition 50 will officially begin just a few minutes from now when the Soyuz physically separates from the International Space Station with Rubins, Ivanishin, and Onishi on board. 3 hours ago, as we mentioned, Rubins, Ivanishin, and Onishi bid farewell to Kimbrough, Ryzhikov, and Borisenko, climbed into the Soyuz MS-01 spacecraft, closed the hatch at 4:12 p.m. Central Time, began a series of leak checks to ensure that we had an airtight seal between the Soyuz and the International Space Station, after which the crew donned their Sokol launch and entry suits, conducted leak checks on those suits as well. Everything is now in readiness for the departure of the Soyuz MS-01. A short time ago here in the flight control room, Flight Director Courtney McMillan took a poll of her flight controllers, received a go for undocking. She passed that on to her Russian flight director counterpart at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov. Everything is all set for the departure of the Expedition 49 crew, and its activities over the course of the next few hours that will lead to a deorbit burn that will begin the Soyuz's descent back into the Earth's atmosphere and its trip back to Earth.
Then command A5, yes.
Rubins, Ivanishin, and Onishi are wrapping up 115 days in space, 113 days aboard the International Space Station, in which they will have completed 1,840 orbits of the Earth in a mission spanning 48.6 million statute miles. Anatoly Ivanishin completing the second long-duration flight in his career and a total of 280 days in space Rubins and Onishi, of course, in this, their first flight into space, will have wrapped up 115 days in space. An eventful mission in which Kate Rubins conducted 2 spacewalks totaling 12 hours and 46 minutes, the first of which was associated with the installation of the first international docking adapter at the forward end of the U.S. segment of the International Space Station that will accommodate the future arrival of U.S. commercial crew vehicles. A total of 4 visiting vehicles visited the departing crew during the course of their 4 months on orbit. 1 Progress resupply ship, 1 SpaceX Dragon resupply ship, 1 orbital ATK Cygnus vehicle that just arrived a week ago on the International Space Station, and the Soyuz vehicle that brought Kimbrough, Ryzhikov, and Borisenko to the complex just 8 days ago. In just 11 and a half minutes, the command will be issued to begin the opening of the hooks that have held the Soyuz spacecraft in place since July 9th at the Rassvet module, the docking port on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the station. The crew will perform several departure burns. There is one actual test of the manual control system of the Soyuz that we'll talk about in just a moment. The Soyuz will drift to a distance well away from the International Space Station for the deorbit burn, a 4-minute, 37-second retrograde braking maneuver that will allow the Soyuz to enter the Earth's atmosphere, that deorbit burn coming at 10:06 p.m. this evening. Shortly thereafter, before it reaches the Earth's atmosphere, there will be a pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz, enabling the descent module to expose its heat shield against the extreme heat in the upper reaches of the Earth's atmosphere. Shortly after that takes place, a sequential series of parachute deployments, 2 pilot parachutes, a drogue chute deployment, and then a main parachute deployment will take place, with landing scheduled on the south central steppe of Kazakhstan at 10:59 and 13 seconds p.m. Central Time, which will be 9:59 and 13 seconds a.m. Kazakhstan time on Sunday morning. Down in Kazakhstan, in the remote town of Zhezkazgan, a joint Russian, U.S., and Japanese landing contingent has spent the day after helicoptering from the staging city in Karaganda to the northeast down to Zhezkazgan to prepare for landing. They will be departing their hotels a short time from now to make their way to the Zhezkazgan airport and to board 10 Russian Mi-8 helicopters that will be deployed in a sequential fashion to fly about 35 minutes from Zhezkazgan to the landing site to stage in a circular oval-shaped pattern to prepare for the arrival of the Soyuz MS-01 spacecraft and its 3 occupants. 2 other helicopters are already down well to the southwest at the Yublini airstrip near the Baikonur Cosmodrome. They will be ready in the unlikely event that a technical problem would occur that would result in a ballistic landing or a shortfall of the Soyuz spacecraft reaching its nominal landing site upstream. So 2 ballistic helicopters are standing by in Yublini near the Baikonur Cosmodrome. The other 10 helicopters waiting to take off from Zhezkazgan, heading for the landing site. That will occur a bit later, just before the deorbit burn is scheduled to take place. The latest weather forecast issued a short time ago from the Spaceflight Meteorology Group here at the Johnson Space Center calls for a broken cloud ceiling at 2,200 feet at the landing site,
3 minutes.
winds out of the southwest at 7 knots, and a temperature at landing time just over freezing at about 34 degrees Fahrenheit.
Could you close the shutter?
At this hour, the International Space Station is currently flying 252 statute miles above the Earth, just having crossed the west coast of India, south of Mumbai, moving from southwest to northeast in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. The command to initiate the opening of the hooks that have held the Soyuz MS, or Modernized Systems spacecraft, in place since July 9th is scheduled just 7.5 minutes from now. It will take about 90 seconds for that activity to occur, after which springs on both sides of the docking interface will push off against one another to create the physical separation, or the official undocking, that is planned for 7:35 p.m. Central Time. At that point, Shane Kimbrough, the new Expedition 50 commander, and his two Russian crewmates, Sergei Ryzhikov and Andrei Borisenko, will be a three-man crew for the next 3 weeks until the launch in the wee hours of November 18th, Baikonur time, of the next trio of residents to launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. That will include NASA flight engineer Peggy Whitson, Soyuz commander Oleg Novitsky, and European Space Agency flight engineer Thomas Pesquet, who will embark on a 2-day journey to reach the International Space Station in the wee hours of November 20th for the start of a 5-month mission on board.
Complete.
Команда E2 готова.
Year 2. E2 command is ready.
Через 30 секунд выдаем. Принято.
Yeah, it's ready in 30
As mentioned a moment ago, about 3 minutes after physical separation, or the undocking of the Soyuz MS-01 from the Rassvet module, there will be a separation burn, the first of two such separation burns that will create an opening rate of the Soyuz from the International Space Station. Once the separation burn number 1 is complete, Ivanishin will assume manual control and perform a series of tests with a pair of hand controllers to characterize the controllability with the new Soyuz MS thruster configuration and the effectiveness of those thrusters.
And I see the rate gyros, those 3 of them. Go into next page.
Again, strapped into their respective seats in the descent module of the Soyuz spacecraft, Anatoly Ivanishin in the center seat as Soyuz commander, flanked on his left by board engineer number 1 Takuya Onishi of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. On Ivanishin's right, Kate Rubins of NASA. A very eventful 4 months on orbit for this trio as they begin the journey home, and a landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan to the southeast of the town of Zhezkazgan, landing scheduled just after 10:59 p.m. Central Time, 9:59 a.m. Sunday morning in Kazakhstan. That will be about an hour and 55 minutes after sunrise.
Инструкции запрета КВ и ГСО пока нет.
Do not have a cover inhibit yet or GSO.
Параметри КАД проверил.
Cadil parameters have been checked. Good.
С-17.
Now F-17.
Команда видана.
Command has been sent.
Широкий объект R7.
Command R7 for wide angle lens.
All of the pre-landing preparations are well underway at the landing site in Kazakhstan. Again, temperatures expected to be just over the freezing mark Fahrenheit at the landing site with a broken deck of clouds predicted at about 2,200 feet. The landing contingent, including NASA, Russia, and Russian and Japanese personnel will be departing their hotel in Zhezkazgan to make their way to the airport, and the process of boarding 10 Russian Mi-8 helicopters, and like a flotilla of spiders will make their way one by one in sequential fashion to the landing site to begin their pre-landing preparations and to await the arrival of Rubens, Ivanishin, and Onishi.
Guys, please get the floodlight ready and select.
Less than 2.5 minutes away from the issuance of the undocking command that will begin the process of opening the hooks that have held the MS-01 spacecraft in place at the Rosviet module since July 9th.
Copy, R5.
R5 вydana.
R5 has been sent.
Команда ССВТ Т-7 готова.
The 7 command for SSVP for command.
Just 1.5 minutes until the issuance of the undocking command. A great view as the International Space Station flies over China. On the left is the orbital ATK Cygnus craft that arrived at the International Space Station just a week ago. In the middle, there's your Soyuz MS-01 spacecraft, currently docked to the Rosviet module. On the right, at the bottom of your screen, the ISS Progress 64 cargo craft that arrived at the station back in July and which will remain attached to the station until the end of January.
3230, and I sent the 7 command. The probe.
Visiting Vehicle Officer Heidi Paris here in the flight control room reports that the Soyuz docking mechanism has now been powered up. This view now, as we fly over Russian ground stations, of the engineering cross-haired view from the Soyuz, looking at the docking target on the Rosviet module.
Command. At 3330, send the command to open the hooks. I have the command ready. 20 seconds. Copy.
Seconds.
10 seconds. 5, 3, 2, 1. I sent the command.
And the undocking command has been issued. Hooks now driving open.
Hooks open is not illuminated. Hooks closed is just went out. F11 and transfer hatch closed.
The hooks now open, standing by for physical separation.
Такой сам после первого импульса ВДК включаем по команде.
So, Rodeka, please activate it on command with the first burn. Copy. Mechanical connection, Mihan Soyedin is no longer activated, is no longer illuminated. Standing by for the next command to be complete and go through.
Station now flying over southern Mongolia, and we have undocking.
SSVP mode.
Undocking confirmed at 7:35 p.m. Central Time. On the cusp of the 16th anniversary of a permanent human occupancy in space, the 50th expedition to the International Space Station is officially underway.
CS ready. BBS ready. And the docking mechanism is, the interface of the docking mechanism is clear of any FOD. R5. Once again, is that okay? Okay? Yeah.
A great view of the MS-01 vehicle as it begins its journey home. Once again, undocking occurring right on time at 7:35 p.m. Central Time, 8:35 p.m. Eastern Time, as the International Space Station flew 252 statute miles over southern Mongolia.
MCC Moscow. In 5 minutes, inaudible. Come again. R5, once again, could you send the command? The command has been sent.
The Soyuz MS-01 in the center section, or the descent module. Soyuz Commander Anatoly Ivanishin, flanked on his left by Takuya Onishi of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and on his right, NASA's Kate Rubins, as they begin the journey home that will culminate with their landing in south-central Kazakhstan 3 hours and 22 minutes from now.
I'm ready to send the R8 command for the wide angle before the first burn. Yeah, I'll get ready like 10 seconds prior to the burn 1. R8, sending the command. This is stuck. The command went through successfully. DPO active. DPO.
The first separation burn, an 8-second burn that will increase the opening rate by about 0.5 of a meter per second, now underway.
And sending A11. Activating aerodeca. Copy. Command has been sent.
And a good view of the manual test being performed by Anatoly Ivanishin. A test of a pair of hand controllers on board Soyuz to characterize the controllability of the new Soyuz MS thruster configuration.
Has been activated. Affirmative.
Breathtaking view as the Soyuz flies over northeastern China, about to cross the border on the far eastern side of Russia.
Rotational hand controller up. Depot is no longer illuminated. Depot thrusters are no longer illuminated. Affirmative. To the left. Depot thrusters are no longer illuminated. To the right. Depot thrusters. Everything's nominal. Clockwise. Depot thrusters and maneuver are nominal. Counterclockwise.
One flight controller here in Mission Control described the view as awesome.
Rotation affirmative. Route translational hand controller.
Currently crossing the border between China and Russia, moving from southwest to northeast.
Pulling. Nominal to the left. Nominal. To the right,
Пол перемещения.
depot thrusters and movement
Экрана.
nominal. And the docking mechanism is in the center of the screen.
Табло СК включаем.
So
Открыть.
OSK, stab OSK should be off. I'm switching it off. This is stuck. Depot cut to selection A13 command.
Команда видана.
The command to select depot K2 has been sent. Rotational hand controller up. Movement confirmed. Down. Depot thrusters active. Confirmed. To the left. Depot thrusters active and movement confirmed. To the right. Depot thrusters active and movement confirmed. Counterclockwise. Forward.
The first in the new genre of Soyuz spacecraft called the MS, or Modernized Systems Spacecraft. The MS-01 flying free of the International Space Station. Aboard the complex Expedition 50 officially underway under the command of NASA astronaut Shane Kimbrough.
Confirmed. Pulling towards me. Confirmed. To the left. Depot thrusters active and translation. Confirmed. To the right. The same. All the way away from me. Affirmative. Aero AK activating. Aero AK is active. Repress of the KDU. Indicator mode. Affirmative. Aero AK up. Nominal. Down. Depot thrusters and maneuver. Confirmed. To the left. Depot thrusters active and movement confirmed.
In the descent module of the Soyuz MS-01, Soyuz Commander Anatoly Ivanishin continues a series of hand controller tests to measure the effectiveness and controllability of the new thruster configuration on this spacecraft. Everything so far has looked good.
Depot thrusters active and maneuver confirmed. Route translational hand controller test. Depot thrusters active, confirmed. All the way pulling down. Confirmed. Left. Confirmed. Right. Confirmed. Pulling towards me. Depot thrusters active. Pushing. Confirmed. Docking mechanism in the center of the screen.
Приходишь в центре экрана. Вивар ДТО К1, К2, А9.
K2 and 9.
Команда прошла.
Soyuz flying over the Sea of Okhotsk, about to begin a northwest to southeasterly track across the
And
extreme northwestern Pacific Ocean.
pulling. Translation hand controller down. For 20 seconds. Copy.
Second.
10 seconds. This is stuck.
Начали импульс вниз.
Burn has started. And hand controller down.
10 секунд до отключения.
10 seconds till deactivation.
5,
5,
3,
3, 2, 1.
отключаем. Закончили импульс.
Thrust has been deactivated. We are done with the burn. We see the station going above us.
And the manual hand controller test by Evolution now all completed.
With the burn. And you can perform the closeout operations. All right, we're working for page 216, sending E13 command. Or DR command went through successfully at OAK. Accelerometer 1, 2, 3. Repress of the KDU is still illuminated. We, Moscow, this is Irkutsk. KDU repress is still illuminated. It didn't go out. Moscow. Just do it manually, Irkutsk. Copy manually. Sending the A4 command manually. The command has been sent at 03:45:55. The command went through successfully. E1 command for dynamic mode inhibit.
This view scintillating of the Soyuz flying away from the International Space Station through the high-definition external viewer camera, or HDEV, moving from northwest to southeast at an altitude of 252 miles above the Earth over the northwest Pacific Ocean.
V8 of V8. Turn it on. Command went through successfully. 3:46:35. That's the time. Okay, press down. Select depot K1 and K2. Send A11, A13. A11 went through. Deactivate SS VP with D8. The command went through successfly at 03:46:55. The probe is retracted. The hooks are open. The clamps have been retracted. Transfer hatch closed. Vizir причал. V8 is off. Floodlight off. V18 command went through successfully. The floodlight is next in line to be off. S18 and translational hand control in transport position. Copy.
Anatoly Ivanishyn aboard the Soyuz MS-01 vehicle that you see flying free of the International Space Station, now configuring the Soyuz systems after undocking in preparation for the deorbit burn that will occur at 10:06 and 35 seconds p.m. Central Time this evening, once the Soyuz has moved well away from the International Space Station. Down in Kazakhstan, meanwhile, the search and recovery forces, Rosaviatsa, the Russian search and recovery team, complemented by NASA and Japanese support personnel, are preparing to leave their hotels in the town of Zhezkazgan, where they flew to in 10 Russian Mi-8 helicopters from the staging city of Karaganda in the very, very wee hours on Saturday U.S. time. They will be making their way to the airport at Zhezkazgan to reboard those helicopters and to take off in sequential fashion for a 35-minute flight to the landing site southeast of the town of Zhezkazgan and await the arrival of the Soyuz spacecraft and its 3 occupants.
Is the spherical tanks pressures.
The 10 Russian Mi-8 helicopters that will be departing for the prime landing site will be augmented by 4 all-terrain vehicles. 2 additional Russian helicopters are moving or are in position at the airstrip at Yublini near the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, the launch site for Soyuz vehicles. They are also manned by NASA, Japanese, and Russian personnel in the unlikely event that a technical problem would result in a shortfall landing of the Soyuz vehicle, or what is known as a ballistic landing, well short of the intended nominal landing site. A good view there of the Russian flight control room in Korolyov outside of Moscow, where the Russian flight controllers are presiding over the departure of the Soyuz MS-01 vehicle and eventually its deorbit burn and landing operations on the steppe of Kazakhstan later this evening.
Irkut, MCC Moscow. Go ahead.
Иркут, давайте переведем РР
Иркут,
градуса, команда К-11.
please send the K-11 command.
K-11.
K-11.
Without command
K-11
Bremen.
has been sent at 03.
Принято.
51 inaudible. Copy.
Aboard the Soyuz MS-01 in the center section, or the descent module, is the Soyuz commander, Anatoly Ivanishin, flying under the Soyuz call sign of Irkut, flanked on his left by board engineer number 1, Takoya Onishi of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and on his right, board engineer number 2, NASA's Kate Rubins,
Moscow.
continuing an opening rate away from the International Space Station,
The pages in the book.
where they will be poised for the deorbit burn coming up a little over 2 hours from now. That will begin the ride home back into the Earth's atmosphere. That deorbit burn will be a 4-minute, 37-second retrograde braking maneuver to slow the Soyuz down by 128 meters per second, enabling it to drop out of orbit for its descent back towards the landing site in south-central Kazakhstan.
Иркут,
Irkut,
Москвы.
MCC Moscow.
Сеанса связи.
For next
Выполнять
compact.
пуск. Время сеанса связи, начало УКВ зоны в 05:01.
Compass starts at 0501.
До этого времени,
Copy. 0501.
да, до этого времени у нас задач особо нету.
And we don't have anything else for you for now.
В ближайшее время у нас ключевое это 04:50.
And
Камера GoPro.
you can get some rest, guys. Just don't forget, you need to activate at 0450. You need to activate the GoPro. All right, so we're going to be resting till 0500.
Передачу тоже не отжимаем.
And do we need to deactivate or do anything with the comm assets? No. Leave them as is, and don't depress the button on the comm assets. Just leave everything as is. All right, our next actions will be for page 48. Moscow, did we do everything correct for the test? For the hand controller test, was everything all right? Did we forget anything? No, you didn't. Everything's fine.
Москва на 148 стороне.
Moscow.
Первая секция КДУ.
We have to have both sections of KDU illuminated for page 48. We're going to get them or not? No.
А-15 и Г-15 команды. То есть 100 и 101 приз.
G15 command.
Continuing to receive spectacular views of the Soyuz MS-01 as it drifts further and further away from the International Space Station following its undocking from the complex's Rassvet module that occurred on time at 7:35 p.m. Central Time, 8:35 p.m. Eastern Time, as the Soyuz and the station flew 252 miles over southern Mongolia.
Mode starts. We're using the Karel.
Next up for the Soyuz and its three crew members aboard the descent module will be the deorbit burn that is scheduled at 10:06 and 35 seconds p.m. Central Time. Again, that will be a 4-minute, 37-second retrograde firing of the Soyuz engines to slow the spacecraft down by 128 meters per second, enabling it to begin the descent back toward the Earth's atmosphere. Some 27 minutes after the deorbit burn will come the pyrotechnic separation of the three sections of the Soyuz, as the top section of the orbital module and the lower section, the instrumentation and propulsion module, will separate from the descent module where the crew members are located. That will expose the heat shield to the elements of re-entry, where temperatures around the spacecraft will build to about 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit as the Soyuz enters the Earth's atmosphere. That will begin at about 10:36 p.m. Central Time. The entry into the plasma regime, where the temperatures will reach their peak, and where entry guidance will begin at an altitude of about 79.8 kilometers. That will be just before 10:38 p.m. Central Time. About a 5-minute excursion through the plasma regime. The crew will exit that plasma environment with a maximum G load of about 4 to 5 Gs pulling against their bodies. That is timed out to occur at 10:42 and 47 seconds p.m. Central Time.
46, correct.
Just a couple of minutes after the maximum G load is felt for the crew will be the command to open up the parachutes in sequential fashion. This will start with the deployment of 2 pilot parachutes, as they are called, the second of which will extract a drogue chute on the Soyuz. The drogue chute is then released. It measures 24 square meters, slowing the Soyuz down from a descent rate of 230 meters per second to just 80 meters per second. In sequential fashion, the main parachute will be released, slowing the Soyuz to a descent rate of just 7.2 meters per second. The harnesses on that chute will first allow the Soyuz to descend at a canted angle of 30 degrees to expel heat. Then we'll shift the Soyuz to a straight vertical descent for the remainder of its 15 minutes of use to enable the Soyuz to touch down after a firing of its soft landing engines just a few feet above the landing site in Kazakhstan. Landing scheduled at 10:59 and 13 seconds p.m. Central Time, or 9:59 a.m. Kazakhstan time on Sunday morning, just an hour and 55 minutes after sunrise.
МКС Москва в канале с гадем для Сергея.
Station Moscow, space to ground 1 for Sergey. Go ahead.
Сергей, техническая возможность имеется?
Sergey, it is possible. We have that technical capability, so if you'd like to try, you can go ahead and try to call the crew on VHF. All right, thank you.
detected. Там лузина, vamos.
Do you need help?
This is Mission Control Houston. The Soyuz now out of view from cameras on the International Space Station. Just to recap, the crew departing the station, Anatoly Ivanishin, Kate Rubins, and Takuya Onishi wrapping up 115 days in space, undocked from the International Space Station at 7:35 p.m. Central Time, 8:35 p.m. Eastern Time.
I will help you. Okay. Actually, not yet.
The Soyuz, with the three occupants in the descent module in their respective seats, moved away from the station, conducted a series of separation burns. Ivanishin conducted a series of tests of the manual controllability of the new Soyuz with its updated thruster configuration, and now is drifting to a point well away from the station for the deorbit burn just over 2 hours from now. That will begin at 10:06 and 35 seconds p.m. Central Time to begin the ride home into the Earth's atmosphere, and a landing in south-central Kazakhstan at 10:59 and 13 seconds p.m. Central Time.
That one is under your knee board, you know, right?
Down at the staging city of Zhezkazgan, where the combined Russian search and recovery team, along with NASA and Japanese support personnel, flew in 10 Russian Mi-8 helicopters to pre-stage from Karaganda, Kazakhstan in the wee hours of Saturday. They are about to leave their hotels and make their way to the Zhezkazgan airport to reboard those helicopters. And around the time of the deorbit burn, will begin a 35-minute flight in the helicopters from Zhezkazgan to the prime landing site, which is 148 kilometers to the southeast of Zhezkazgan, and await the arrival of the Soyuz spacecraft and its occupants. Again, everything proceeding on track for an on-time landing of the Soyuz at that landing site, where we're expecting a broken deck of clouds and temperatures around 34 degrees Fahrenheit to greet the three returning crew members and an end to their 115-day mission. On board the International Space Station, Expedition 50, now officially underway under the command of NASA astronaut Shane Kimbrough, along with his two Russian crewmates, Sergei Ryzhikov and Andrei Borisenko, who will be a three-man crew for the next 3 weeks, until the next trio of residents, NASA's Peggy Whitson, Russian cosmonaut Oleg Novitsky, and European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet will be launched on the Soyuz MS-03 vehicle in the wee hours of November 18th, embarking on a 2-day journey to reach the station and re-augment the station to a 6-person crew. So we'll wrap up our coverage of the undocking of the Soyuz with the three Expedition 49 crew members on their way, heading to a point as they await the deorbit burn just under 2 hours from now that will begin the final leg of their journey back home and a landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan just before 11 p.m. Central Time, just before midnight Eastern Time. With that, we'll wrap up our coverage for now. We'll be back on the air at 9:45 p.m. Central Time, 10:45 p.m. Eastern Time with our deorbit and landing coverage, and with the anticipated live television from the landing site in Kazakhstan. Until then, we wish you a good evening. We'll see you soon. This is Mission Control in Houston.